Hello and welcome to the most hated show in the black corner of YouTube. I'm your host, the whiteologist, Mr. Blows Your Minds, and this is Black Minds News Report. Black Minds News is to report, articulate, transmit, communicate, insinuate, develop, investigate, unveil, decode, spread the news, whether it's by news, video, website, or quotes from publications. As I articulate this information, I get the creator of the universe, be here, heart, soul, mind, and spirit. Because why? The truth don't need no partner. As a descendant of the greatest people who created this place that we call the United States, we, the foundational black Americans, the bloodline historical lineage, the historical people known as slaves, we who call ourselves BADOS, Black American descendant of slaves. Some say Black African descendant of slaves. Others say ADOS, American descendant of slaves. We, the today's children, offspring, and present generation, we give honor to our ancestors. You know what the motto of my show is? I'm never going to tell you what I heard. I'm only going to tell you what I know. Today's date is September 24th, 2019. Did you hear? In Indiana, a city councilman being at home start noticing some charges. I guess there's some electronic alert about his financial, cards that register to tell him that there's some funny business going on with your finance. So they decided to check that, and somehow, according to what I read in the article, didn't catch that part, but maybe we did once we get into it. But he gets in his vehicle to trace the cards, right? Find the location where the store is, where the charges is. Lo and behold, imagine that. You're going to be able to find the individuals who are dealing with your financial cards, putting a burden, taking away where you may be held up until they can investigate. Well, when you left the house, like they say, old Carl Moulton used to say, don't leave home without it, right? So he decided to come with his old trusty with him, right? So they followed the individuals, get up to a certain position with them. One thing led to another. Now, the young man seems to be now going to be held for kidnapping. The question becomes, was that really what happened? Or was it really an individual trying to redeem a situation in his own hands? And we have to look at it from a legal situation. Was there rights and was there wrongs? Well, again, this is the most hated show in the black corner of YouTube. I am your host, Mr. Blows Your Mind, and we will look at this story as we report it for this date. And stay tuned for this broadcast. Hey, how's y'all doing? This is your host, Mr. Blow Your Mind, and welcome to Black MINDZ News Report. Again, today's date is September the 24th, 2019. And first and foremost, I want to say, what's good to my fam? Subscribers old and new. Welcome and thank you for your participation, your click, and we kindly thank you for your participation. Passerbys, if you should happen to pass by due to the simple fact that they either seen the thumbnail, read the title, something that enticed you to come over here, welcome to the most hated show in the black corner of YouTube. Mr. Blow Your Mind, how can you say you the most hated show in the black corner of YouTube? I watch many shows and a lot of them say the same thing. Well, the difference between them and I is that I've been in the business for 7 years. Used to get 250,000 views plus 30,000, 50,000, you name it, I was getting it. Right? Have 2.94,000 subscribers and can't get past 40 views. You tell me, what is that? Again, go down the aisle, see some things that you might like. We always got a grand opening over here. If you happen to see some things that make you feel some kind of way, remember that the motto of the show is the truth. Don't need no partner. Now let's go ahead and get into today's article. So as I was telling you in the intro there, right? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give you all the ins and outs to make sure everything is already in place. And we shall be right back. Let me go ahead and let you get all this information. And we'll come back on my little dissertation on it. So hold on, be right back.
Cheryl Ronald Brewer is here locked up being questioned by East Chicago police tonight, but still not formally charged after what police describe as a wild series of events last night.
I'd like to welcome you to the Gary Common Council.
Tonight, one of Gary, Indiana's lawmakers is locked up, accused of breaking state law not far from the town he oversees.
I just hope that people will reserve a final judgment, because if you listen to the facts as they are now, they don't sound good.
Ronald Brewer's attorney says trouble started in his Gary gas station parking lot Saturday evening when Brewer's car was stolen. His attorney says Ronald Brewer and his wife jumped in the car and decided to track down the thieves. At this gas station, his attorney says the thieves bailed out of the car.
They went to that location. Lo and behold, they see their car, the car that had been stolen.
Police say Brewer followed the car, and along Indianapolis Boulevard, East Chicago police say Brewer started shooting at it. ShotSpotter Technology police say picked up on the gunshots and alerted police.
Mr. Brewer apprehended one of them, put him in his car, and took him back to Gary for purposes of taking him to the Gary police.
But police say Brewer instead went to his Gary home, where police intercepted him and arrested the city council president. His attorney says what Brewer did is a perfectly legal citizen's arrest. Now tonight, his attorney does say that's perfectly legal. The mayor of Gary is urging people to hold off on judgment. She says this situation does not add up. Tonight, Brewer is not charged, but police are considering charges of kidnapping and criminal recklessness.
East Chicago, Indiana, WLS. The Gary City Council president is in jail Monday, accused of firing a gun at 2 teens he suspected of stealing his car and allegedly kidnapping one of them. East Chicago police said Ron Brewer grabbed one of those teens. He has not yet been charged, but is being held on probable cause for kidnapping and criminal recklessness. I just hope that people will reserve final judgment, because if you listen to the facts as they are now, they don't sound good, says Gary Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson. Scott King, Brewer's attorney, said the trouble started in the Gary gas station Saturday evening when Brewer's car was stolen. Inside his car had been one or more debit cards, and he noticed charges were being made, King said. His attorney said that's when Brewer and his wife jumped in their other car and decided to track down the thieves. They went to the location, King said, Lo and behold, they see the car that had been stolen. According to East Chicago police, Brewer followed the car along Indianapolis Boulevard. He started shooting at it. Police said shot spotter technology picked up the gunshots and alerted officers. Eventually, they all arrived in the East Chicago gas station. Some number of the individuals jumped out of the car, started running in different directions. King said, "It's my understanding Mr. Brewer apprehended one of them, put him in his car, took him back to Gary for purposes of taking him to the Gary police." But police said Brewer instead went to his Gary home where officers intercepted and arrested him. His attorney said what Brewer did was a perfectly legal citizen's arrest. My job is to look at what the law is, and the law in Indiana since 1981 has permitted this, he said. It's not something that's consistent with who I know him to be, said Mayor Freeman Wilson. Brewer is being held in East Chicago where the alleged car theft took place. Police are also investigating the original car theft report. All right, so we're back, right? So we see a city councilman, Ron Brewer of Indiana, city councilman. According to the article, says that Mr. Brewer car had been stolen. And upon, I guess, I'm insinuating, because again, it does not write that, but I'm just going to insinuate that car being stolen, he recognized, according to the article, or had knowledge of the fact that he had several debit cards that were in the vehicle. So he decided to maybe go monitor the cards to see if any transactions that will give him a location to where the car is gone, which is smart, right? Smart. But some people might be thinking, well, the first thing you probably should have done is call the police, right? Right? That's what some people will be. Again, you're going to have devil's advocate. I have to be, again, doing the middle. You had both sides to it, right? Some people say, well, maybe you should have called the police first. Okay, but in his assessment of what he felt he needed to do, this is what he did. So, lo and behold, cards are coming up with transactions, and he decided, him and his wife, he didn't go by himself. He ain't call him boy. His wife, ride or die with him, right? His ride or die. Let's mount up, baby. You know what I'm saying? So she mount up, get in with him, and they go to a gas station. So as they get to the gas station, they recognize and see the vehicle, right? Now they got in the other car, right? Okay, so they get in there to see the culprits. They get in the vehicle and they tail them. After telling them so period of time, seemed like Mr. Brewer, as he got up to get close, he started bucking shots. Pow, 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 right? Letting them loose, right? And so as he let loose, somehow either people jumped out vehicle, right? I guess we have to assume, right? They jumped out. Now, according to these supposed to be teenagers, right? Didn't specify what their ages are, right? And that in itself, based on that being teenager, then again, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to show you something, at least tell you something as into when they talk about, because look at the charges that they're going to give them. But again, let's get back into the fact here first. So somehow he apprehends one of the allegedly, you know what they say, allegedly stolen vehicle, right? Okay. He apprehends, gets them in the vehicle. Don't know how they did that, but again, you got the gun. You know, gun can control, right? Get yourself up in my car, and we're gonna drive you back to my house. All right, now, okay, right? Think about that, right? A lot of people might be, you know, a little, you know, say, hey, what's that about, right? But okay, but this is what Mr. Brewer decided to do. Takes you driving back to him house, and I said him house, right? I said him house. He took me back to him house. And because of the pow, 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 spot shooter was alerted. Now, spot shooters, those who've been avid watchers on my show, remember when I go all the way back, man, I told that about almost a year ago, almost 2 years ago, when I talked about spot shooter. Remember how spot shooter started off in San Francisco, right? That's where it originated in, right? And then I think Chicago picked it up and so forth. But again, was trying to deter anytime with some shots being fired. The technology zeroes in where the shots is coming from, alert the police within the area, and boom, they're going to jump on it. So in the unbeknownst process to Mr. Brewer, after he bucked the shots, after he apprehended the allegedly suspect and on his way back to his house, Popo is following him. Okay, and they say, according to the article, that he was intervened, and that's when they actually accosted and end up arresting Mr. Brewer. Okay, so he had been arrested, and we see that based on his arrest, the fact that you know what he's saying as he's relaying the information as to what took place. The question becomes, as a defense for Mr. Brewer, they say citizen arrest, right? You heard that being mentioned, citizen arrest, right? So what I went and did is I went and looked up what is citizen's arrest. Matter of fact, hold on. Citizen arrest according to Indiana state law, right? And let me tell you what it says as into, it's called it's under the criminal law and procedure statute 3542-3-2. And, well, I guess that one, no, I'm going to have to say, take that back. That might be for kidnapping. We're going to do kidnapping now. We're going to go with this one first. We're going to go with this one here first. So, okay, it says 3533-1-4 says, any person may arrest any other person if, one, the other person commits a felony in his present or her present, right? You know, we don't really want women go out there trying to citizen arrest no big football brother, right? You don't want to be doing that. But anyway, but he could do it if you got it, right? And again, we know EEOC, everybody equal opportunity. You know, women, you just, you know what I'm saying, you want to go in there and get your feet wet, go ahead and do that, right? It's okay. So it says 2, it says a felony has been committed and he has probable cause to believe that the other person has committed that felony, okay? So 1, if you commit a felony in the presence of an individual, you can be under the statute to do what? Citizen arrest. 2, if you have probable cause to believe that the person has committed that felony. Now, probable cause, again, we as BADOS, ADOS, we hear that term probable cause a lot. But I'm just wondering, does this kind of work in the same as if you have a Caucasian, right? Maybe it doesn't work the same, but okay, let's just see. So it says, a misdemeanor involving a breach of peace is being committed in his presence, and the arrest is necessary to prevent the continuance of the breach of peace. So again, breach of peace, right? Right? A misdemeanor involvement. Now again, if somebody who's being disturbing, loud, obnoxious, you know what I'm saying, unruly, I guess you could apprehend them because they're breaching the peace, right? 3B says a person making an arrest under this section shall, as such as practical, notify a law enforcement officer and deliver custody of the person arrested to a law enforcement officer. I'm going to have to say that again. A person making an arrest under this section shall, as soon as practical, notify a law enforcement officer and deliver custody of the person arrested to a law enforcement officer. Now, keep that as a bookmark in your mind, because that right there, when I read that, I was like, okay. So what we gonna see is somebody on the defense of the teens or defending them is going to use this to try to offset. Now, again, you know what I'm saying? Lawyers, again, it could be commendable profession, but again, you got to look at both sides of that, because sometimes, you know, your man just straight or your woman just guilty, but as a good attorney, I guess you can make a way out of no way, right? And you can live with that, right? So again, I'm looking at that. I said, okay, that might be where the problem is, kind of like what the mayor was saying, right? The mayor was like, according to what everything is being said, it don't sound good for him, but okay. C says the law enforcement officer may process the arrest person as if the officer had arrested him. The officer who receives or processes a person after arrested by another under this section is not liable for false arrest or false imprisonment. Now, that is basically saying that if you or I did a so-called citizen arrest based on, again, it says probable cause, and come to determine later on that that arrest was false, well, the police cannot be liable for the fact that it was you who made the arrest. It wasn't I. I just assist because you did according to the jurisdiction of the law of a citizen arrest, and you don't have full jurisdiction authority, so I'm going to go ahead and clean this up, and we're going to take it and do it to the proper. So we're going to credit you in the paper, mention you on the news, and so forth. Okay? That's what we're going to pay you. I mean, good civil. That's what civic duty you just did, right? So we're going to apprehend. That's good stuff. So, the things you have to look at there is this. Was it a felony in his presence? Did he believe probable cause that what was being committed? Well, we know it wasn't breach of peace. And 3B says, when you making this arrest, it's as soon as practical. Right? Practical. And that right there, right? You know, that's what you got to look at, right? Practical. What do they mean when you say practical, right? You know, you got to look at this again. Now, here, brother, again, he might, again, it looks all innocent. But again, you never know that somebody may not want you, you know, in this situation, and can use this as a way to actually, you know, deal with you. So when you say practical, we're going to say it's like commonplace, a matter of fact. The nuts and bolts, the work days, every day, day to day, the mundane, the ordinary, the customary, unusual or usual, the undistinguished, experience, knowing, verse, practice, skill, trained, proficient, qualified, competent, capable, and skillful. Okay? So, say, what about efficient, workable, serviceable? Okay, so practical, is there really a time frame in practical? Was it practical for him to go back from the scene after apprehending him and going back to his house? Was that practical? Some people will question that, but we see that the defense for the teens is trying to use this because they end up using the term what? Kidnapping. That you took them and kidnapped them. Well, let's go and show you what the statute of kidnapping says in 3542-3-2 of the Indiana Code says, Section 2 says, a person who knowingly or intentionally removes another person by fraud, enticement, force, or threat of force from one place to another commits kidnapping, except as provided in subsection B. The offense of kidnapping is a level 6 felony. So keep that in mind. Person who knowingly, intentionally removes another person, fraud, enticement, force, threat of force. Okay? Now, level 5 felony if the person removes is less than 14 years of age and is not the removing person's child. So I did hear teen, but they did not specify the age. 13 is a teen, right? So it might be, again, we on the assuming, then specifying they didn't say no names and they ain't gave no ages. So I have to be under this, based on, because I do news, that like I did the other day about the little girl, 6-year-old Kaya. I only got Kaya because the grandmama mentioned it, but they never put her whole name, because again, right, protection. It can't be exploiting like that, right? So in this case, they're not saying that, so I have to be kind of like, well, maybe there was other stories. Again, the story is kind of fresh as I'm doing this, but again, maybe the fact that's what it is. So, okay, maybe they might be under 14. Okay? Is committed by using a vehicle. Okay. So kidnapping is also committed when you use a vehicle. So when you took one place from another, under what they say, knowingly, intentionally remove another person, by force or threat of force, which again, they said he bucked shots, which means he got a gun, right? It results in bodily injury to a person other than the removing person. Now, he didn't do none of that. I mean, he's firing shots, but still, nobody got injured. It's committed while armed with a deadly weapon. See, now he ain't got that gun, right? You got that gun. See what somebody trying to do. They're going to type the situation. Right? Two wrongs don't make a right. And it's going to offset this, right? Because again, we got to wonder who was them shorties in that car, right? Who was them shorties in that car? And so it says that result is seized by injury, removing person who is committed on an aircraft with intent to obtain ransom while hijacking a vehicle, intent to obtain the release, intent to aid in escape or any person in lawful incarceration with the intent to use person removed as a shield or hostage. So, based on what I just read, and it could be interpreted as, again, disclosures. I am not a lawyer. Do not proclaim to know the letters of the law, but I'm just doing this for teaching purpose. Okay, so now, with that being said, sometimes you just have to use common sense, right, when you have to look at this, right? So I say that based on that, it looks like somebody's trying to play in the gray area because, again, when you took from one place to another, under the force of duress, it became now in this area that they're going to play in, because when they talked about the arresting as, let's say, when they're talking about citizen arrest, there is a duty one must do in accordance to be falling under the statute. Once you apprehended, it was now for you to make the call to get them to come. The only reason the police end up being in this situation is because of the spot shooter. So he can't even say that he was trying to call, because again, we don't know how the distance from where he was to where he ended up going back to his home. We don't know how far that was. But is it within time frame that, okay, I'm going to do this here to get you back here? to deal with this situation, because again, maybe he was thinking there was more people in the car, because they said people ran, but never said specify how many. So we just had to say that, right now, as the mayor said, that it don't look good, even though you were doing the right thing, right? And maybe you could have went to the authorities, but again, sometimes we want to deal with it in my own hand. Maybe we don't know, right? So again, it's one of them situations, right? It's one of them situations where damn you do, damn you don't. But again, everybody wants to carry guns and be able to, brandish the gun when necessary. But again, it's like the saying is, don't put it up and you ain't gonna use it, right? And since even if you got the so-called permit to carry, but once you brandishing it, there's a lot of responsibilities, especially once you pull the trigger, everything better line up or somehow they're going to reverse it back on you. You get what I'm saying? And so we hope that this works out. And again, as news is reciprocal, again, it's going to be talked about now, and then they got to go through the process, and then we'll pick it up again, and we'll see the outcome, right? And so again, there's a lesson. Again, what we do here on Black Minds News, we take situations and sometimes we give it to a Black life commentary experience. And again, we don't condone one, you don't condone the other, but sometimes doing the right thing can still put you in that area, especially when somebody who's also trying to play the game to get out of the situation. So it looks like they're going to play kidnapping to either get you to drop, and so they can drop, and everybody go up with their long hair. But the point becomes, who was it in them car that did all that? So again, just want to bring this to your attention. This is Black Minds News. I'm your host, Mr. Blows Your Mind. And this is Black Minds News. So let me go ahead and let's go ahead and get a cue up and get up out of here. That's right. Again, I want to thank each and one of you for your participation. Again, when you see one another, greet your brother. What's good, brother? See your sister? What's good, sister? Can't do that much. At least give it a universal nod. Remember that you got to remember who's on your team and all those players that are on the jersey that represent the same team. Yeah, there's going to be some that's on that team that represent and got others that they consider to be allies. But you ask them that question. You're an ally. 2 questions you got to ask them. When shit and if shit get hot, are you still going to be in the frying pan with me? Ask them if they ever heard of John Brown. Is that something white folks just told black folks to make it think that somebody was out here really trying to really put their neck all the way out for black folks? Or was that just some fantasy mythological story? Understand at the time that we are in, that some are seeking for our demise, and it is incumbent that we stay mindful, vigilant, cautious, and high spirit. Again, I'm your host, Mr. Blows Your Minds, and this has been another Black Minds News Report. Until the next show, peace, love. Until the next show.